So we're going to do today's class. I'm calling it the migrants. The migrants. With 3 migrants. There are many more, but we have 3 volunteers today. So listen, but a couple things. I just want to throw just a couple things out, pieces of information that I think it's kind of interesting. Can you go? Izzy, yeah. So, about 1 in 27 people in the world is considered to be a migrant, meaning that person was born in one country and now resides in another country. And so about 300 million people, which is a little bit less than the population of the United States. And, normally, I don't put information up like that, but I don't know. On one hand, are you surprised it's that high or it's that low? Have any sense of that? I'm both surprised that it's not higher than that, 300,000, and I'm surprised it's not lower than that. I can go one way or the other. You have that?
I mean, I wouldn't say I'm surprised, but I do genuinely think that that number should be a lot higher.
It seems like it would be higher. People are moving around all the time, but not necessarily permanent migrants, right? So people will go to one area for a certain period of time and then back. Hey, Izzy, how about the next slide? And here, this is the continent of origin. So Asia, which includes India, South Asia, is the subcontinent is 120 million, by far the most. But just kind of get a sense of that. That's the continent of origin. So this is the continent from which people are leaving to be migrants. So, okay, let's before we do our quiz, let's introduce our volunteers.
Well, my name's Isaiah. I am from San Diego, California. I am a freshman, and my majors are medical microbiology and health policy administration.
Mm-hmm. Right.
My name is Emily. I'm a freshman, and I'm a first-year electrical engineering student.
My name's Josue. I'm a first-year student. I'm from Bucks County, and I'm currently trying to study hospitality management.
Okay. So you are, what's your ancestry?
Both my parents are Guatemalan.
Are from Guatemala?
Yeah, both of them, yes.
And Emily?
I was born in Cuba.
Born in Cuba. And?
Mainly Mexican.
Mexican. So Guatemalan, Cuban, Mexican. Okay. And we have a guest coming in on the stream, Mr. Rashidi, who is from Kabul, Afghanistan, but now resides in Gouda in the Netherlands. Mr. Rashidi, how are you? Wait, hang on. You're not coming through. Hold on. Try again. Hang on. You're still not coming through. Can we had him earlier, right? Hold on. Mr. Rashidi, just keep talking.
Yeah.
There
What
you
should
are.
I say? Yeah.
There you are. Hey, welcome to class.
Yeah, thank you.
Once again, you've been here numerous times, but it's really nice having you today.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a great honor for me to be in this class.
Always a great honor to have you here.
Yeah, thank you.
So, hey, can you? But can you say where you're from and where you're living and?
I was born in Kabul, and I live in both countries, Iran and Afghanistan, and now I'm living in Netherlands.
And for a while you lived in Iran, right? How many years?
16 years.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the first Taliban era, I went to Iran. And then Afghanistan, then back to Netherlands.
And then back, and then now to the Netherlands. So
Yeah.
you speak English, and you've learned Dutch. You're learning Dutch, Farsi, and Dari, right?
Pashto.
And Pashto.
mm,
Well, I'm
but
gonna.
I'm the processing learning Dutch. My English is mixed with Dutch.
Yeah. And you speak some Russian, right?
Yes, some words now.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, it's good to have you. So,
Thank you.
so listen, let's start. All right. So Isaiah, what's the story in your family in general? How'd they get here with?
So generally, just speaking from one of my parents' side, who I've talked to the most, my mom sought citizenship here during the Reagan administration under the Amnesty Act,
Mm-hmm.
and her siblings all at the same time did as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you're down in San Diego.
Yes, I'm down in San Diego. Yeah,
And there are so many immigrants
Oh,
in
yeah.
San Diego.
everywhere.
Like
Absolutely.
people just going back and forth across the border. Like,
I used to a lot actually. I used to walk across the border sometimes just to go to Tijuana, which is the border, the northernmost part of Mexico, towards bordering San Diego, for just leisure or medicine.
you know, Lori, my wife and I were down on the border in Arizona and New Mexico a year ago, and we were, you know, kind of crossing back and forth, and people just carrying birthday cakes over, like, I'm going to a birthday party, and then, I'll be back in a couple hours, that kind of. It was just the back and forth is profound. When people talk about the border, they often don't realize how many people are crossing back and forth on
Oh, yeah.
every single day.
Every day, yeah. The lines are long, both cars and walking and everything.
Mm-hmm. And that's the problem, right? Sometimes you might want to go see your grandmother or go to a birthday party, but you might get stuck for 2 hours or 3 hours, or it might be 10 minutes.
Unless you have Sentry or
Yeah.
that pass, of course you have to pay for, but
Emily, so you were born in Cuba.
Yes. I was born in Cuba, Pina del Rio. So when I was born there, I stayed a lot of the time with my grandma because my mom worked in the University of Havana. So she was an engineering student, and a lot of her work had to do with traveling to Mexico or Venezuela. And that's how, due to her work, that's how that's how we were able to migrate. Before I came to the US, I lived in Mexico for 3 months, and then I crossed the border from there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And Cubans, as a Cuban, you all have special status, really, because of, you have had special status because you're just automatically considered for
Yeah.
some kind of political refugee status.
Yeah, the immigration process is easier for Cubans than for other people. It was much faster for us when we came over, since as soon as we touched ground, it was like ley seca. So just by touching the American soil,
Do other immigrants feel some kind of way about that, about Cubans? Like, wait, hang on, I'm not gonna. Do other immigrants feel some kind of way about Cubans having it so easy?
I mean, I guess for most, it would be a little bit different. I guess, for the situation for the Cubans, since the economy was not the best, and throughout, it was hard to, reach the U.S. compared to how it would be easier for the other countries, because for most of, I guess, Central America and South America, since it's all connected, you could just easily access. But for Cuba, it's more of a difficult process to make it here than for other South American and Latino countries.
Yeah, and you don't, regardless of what happens to you, to your family in Guatemala, you could be being hunted by los narcos, right? But in Cuba, and you'd be like, listen, we are really refugees, but Cubans just are refugees by being Cubans, or have been. It's not necessarily the case now, but
yeah, if I may add something, I think it's very interesting that Cuba is just nationally recognized by the United States as a country where its citizens can seek refugee status here in in America. But even you don't have to go a couple hundred miles down south in Mexico, and as you said, the narcos are ruining villages and
Yeah.
cities.
Yeah.
And a lot of those people who flee those areas that are impacted by the narcos or the mafia are too seeking refugee status here in the United States.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's so fascinating, right? Okay, Josue, how about you?
So my dad immigrated here legally. He got his citizenship before he came here in 2003. My mom immigrated here when she was 14 years old by herself. She was the oldest of 9 kids, and she came by herself. She got her papers in 2016 because her file was very complicated. I was born here in the U.S., but that's how they both came here to the U.S.
Man, by herself, man. Seriously?
Yeah. She only came with a backpack of clothes, I believe.
It's just so dangerous to do that. You talked to her about that journey? Have you had a conversation?
Yeah, I actually called her today because when I knew I was going to be talking in the class, I wanted to just clarify some of, the facts of all the stuff before I came up here just to talk about it. But I have talked to her about it and my dad about their process of coming to the U.S. because it's difficult from Guatemala because then you have to cross all through Mexico and then you would cross the border.
Mm-hmm.
And then they ended up working their way up to Pennsylvania.
Did she live in La Ciudad or in El Campo, or do you know?
I know in Guatemala she lived up in the mountains. I know I've seen her house where she lived in Guatemala is probably, I would say with all her siblings, even the house they lived in would be the size of a East Hall dorm, which is
like the screen smaller than the.
Yeah, probably. It's about, if you ever been in one of the East Hall dorms, it's about that size.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things that sometimes people, that's why I want to have this conversation. Hey, Mr. Rashidi, why'd you leave Kabul? So you have protected status, you have residency in the Netherlands, but why'd you leave Kabul?
Because of Taliban.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Both two sorry, I mix Dutch. When I go to Iran was because of Taliban, and when I came to Netherlands, it was because of Taliban too.
And you are there. This is the Taliban that took over Afghanistan, and you are there with your family.
Yeah. Yes, it's my story is inside is easy from Kabul airport to Netherlands.
Uh-huh.
It was easy, and the other side was difficult. From my house to get to the airport, it was the difficult side of my it's a long story. I can not hear.
You know what? I'm
Seriously.
gonna have the class read your story on for the next exam, which is coming up in a couple weeks, so they can read it. Yeah.
Mm.
So I'm gonna just say a couple things, Mr. Rashidi.
Good.
So Rashidi and I go back about 12 years, right? 12.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we've been working together, and we had a project that we did together in Afghanistan. And when the country fell, everybody on our team was in great danger because they were working with the United States and working on this project. So collaborating with us and collaborating with Penn State, and that was a problem for the Taliban. Our main member, Rafi is his name, who's worked with us the longest. He was being hunted by the Taliban. If he hadn't got out of Afghanistan, he would have been killed. Mr. Rashidi was not hunted directly by the Taliban, but had you stayed in Afghanistan, it's likely you would have been put into prison, and it's possible you would have been killed. So, but we, man, hard. I mean, I say that, Mr. Rashidi, with deep emotion, because you are my dear friend, and yeah, it's so intense. So the fact that you are sitting there in the Netherlands as an immigrant is has deep meaning. Yeah, because I know Uma and we've spent, and the children spent time together. Okay, let me go to another question. Right now, we have all of this anti-immigration sentiment, and ICE is growing. The numbers of people who are seeking out people who don't have their papers in order, who are either undocumented completely or simply don't have their papers in order. People are being deported. People have a real kind of negative feeling about immigrants. You know, who they are, who you are, who your family is, who your community is. And what I'd like to do today is just humanize a little bit. Humanize. Like, not in this deep liberal way. Like, oh, you should all support immigrants kind of way. Not that. What do you think people need to know?
I mean, I'd like people to know that, like, immigrants, even where I'm from, San Diego, California, are not too different than the people who work here in Pennsylvania. The immigrants I know that have come to the U.S. legally and illegally are teachers, professors, researchers, medical staff, safety, protection. They work for under agencies that keep cities running, on a daily basis. Those are the stories that they have, but they're working the same jobs as I'd say the average American would and should be working.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think? What do you want people to know about people who are undocumented, who come here as undocumented? What do you think? What do you think people don't understand? A lot of people. Maybe do you want to? How about Josue? Why don't you go and then we'll come back? What do you think people? It would be really nice if people understand.
I think what some people don't understand, like, for undocumented immigrants, is that sometimes they don't. I don't think that getting their papers is exactly on the top of their mind for when they're coming here. I think because most of them are escaping from horrible situations. So for them, I think their first thought of mind is, I need to get out of here. They need to flee from wherever they're from. So most of them don't exactly plan on, okay, let me apply for my papers months in advance. Let me leave right now. Their first thought is, there's something going down right now. I don't want this future for myself. I don't want it for my family. I need to leave the spot right now.
Or I'm in danger. I'm in danger, right? And the danger, you can't predict the danger. The danger just suddenly happens. Like in Guatemala, for.
Yeah, I think for my mom, she just grew up in it was not like, it was a very poor environment. She was growing up. She only got to go to 4th grade for her education system, and then she got pulled to help her mom work in the house and all that. And I know throughout the time, the Guatemalan Civil War was happening.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I guess she, seeing all that, she probably, I guess in her mind, she didn't want that for her family that she wanted to have. So her choice was to leave and to try to come to the U.S.
Wait, and how old was she again?
14.
Her choice at 14. And by the way, the Guatemalan Civil War was funded by the United States. So it was a fight against communism.
Yeah, what happened was Jacobo Arbenz, he bought the properties from the United Fruit Company to give it back to Guatemala. His plan was to give it back to the people, to the farmers of Guatemala, to help raise the economy. But what was happening was that the United Fruit Company, they were underrepresenting the taxes that they were having through that land, which ended up, and then the U.S. ended up seeing Arbenz as a communist because it was the time of the Red Scare. So they ended up throwing him out of power. They brought a new leader in, and then that was one of the first starting steps into that
And
Civil
so,
War.
and one of the new leaders was a general and also a very, very strong fundamentalist Christian, Rios Montt, who really was responsible for massacring tens of thousands of people with weapons made by the United States. So the reason I say that is because when you hear him talk about his mother, for example, you understand that we had a direct role in that. It's not like, oh, here's these people coming here. Look, if we didn't play the role that we played, they wouldn't have been coming. And that's really important that people understand. It's this vicious cycle here. And me, so I know about this. I mean, I'm a Latin Americanist. My training for all of my doctoral work and my graduate work is in Latin America. So this is something that I studied every day for 8 years. And it's really, yeah. Emily, what do you think? What do you think people don't really understand about migrants coming, and especially people who are not documented, who you know, like in your community, people you know, people you're aware of, like what do they not understand?
It's hard to answer. It's hard to answer when, like, from my position, because as an immigrant myself, I'm not really thinking about what others think, especially since I grew up in Miami. It's immigrants all around. My school was pretty much all Cubans. So in my position, I can't really think about what other people think as me, myself, as an immigrant, because all I'm focusing is about doing good enough in school so my mom is proud of me and I could be in a better situation than she was. I think that maybe a little bit more considerate towards the process that, and like everything that we put on a line to get here and migrate over here, especially how long it takes to get the papers done. I became a U.S. citizen in 2022, and I came here in 2012. So it took my mom 10 years to get her papers because it takes time. It's a lot of money. When we come here, we don't have all the money in the world. We don't have all the resources in the world. So it takes time to get back up on our feet and to be able to get our papers. We wish that it would be that simple. We wish that that every immigrant in the world could have the same opportunities where we could just come here legally, right? But some others don't have that opportunity. So it's difficult and it's different for everyone's, especially in their experience.
When you heard what I just said about Guatemala, you know, that's a story. It's a common story in Latin America.
Going off what she said a little bit too, like it does take time to get those like papers, like especially depending on your file. Like my mom's file, it was very complicated for her, so she came into the country, but she didn't get her citizenship until 2016. She wasn't allowed to take the test until 2016, and only I believe 3 years before that she was able to get her green card.
So it's a really complicated story. But you would expect it to become. Look, she came at the age of 14 without any papers. She crossed over the border. So you would expect it to be complicated, right? I mean,
yeah, but
nobody thinks it's not going to be. But the issue is, but we don't necessarily know the stories, right? I mean,
yeah, I guess for like what most immigrants are, like, either they're going through the process or, they're still like, they're just trying to get the funds to get into that process. Yeah. So it's hard to, when people, you just choose the people off the street and you just send them back. Like, you don't know, like, oh, they were, maybe they were in the process of getting the funds to start applying for their citizenship, or they're working, or they're already in the process, and it's not the people's fault. It's because the government's backed up in trying to get them the papers.
And it's a very, very complicated way of, yeah.
Just to exemplify that, like the paperwork process is so long and excruciating. Depending on how many people in your family, it can be a nightmare. And I mean, I feel like I can speak for a lot of people. When they immigrate here to the United States, the first thing that they're looking for is protection and where can I work to earn money to feed my family. I know that's part of my family felt that. Where can I work? Who will take me? What job? At least the bare minimum. Can I receive money so that I can make sure that my kids or myself have food on their plate?
Yeah, because you can't receive it's for most of history. I mean, and there was a period in the Biden administration when immigrants got some things, but not a lot. And you can't rely on the government for social services or anything. So if you don't do it yourself, you're in deep trouble. Mr. Rashidi, what do you? So here you are, this Afghan citizen. You worked for NATO, and we worked with the Dutch military. That's how you ended up in the Netherlands, because we had a project with the Dutch military, and so you put your life at risk in Afghanistan in order to work with people in the military in the Netherlands. And so, what do you want people to know about people like yourself?
Just first of all, I say, most of the time we think for a better tomorrow and we are afraid of a bad tomorrow.
You're afraid you're afraid of going backwards. Yeah.
No, not just me. The Netherlanders the people here in Netherlands, the Dutch people, and also, yes, we are afraid of bad tomorrow, of better living. Just we are searching the reason. What's the reason we are afraid of? One thing is immigrants. I think it is an easy answer. Yeah. Yes. They think.
Let me ask you this question: What do you want? What do you want?
I want nothing. Nothing. Yeah, just to live here. I don't think about myself most of the time. Most of the time, I think about my children, to have a good education, to have a safe life, especially for my wife and for my daughter. As if they weren't in Afghanistan, they couldn't go to school, and they couldn't go to work. Yes.
So, yeah. Wait, we're gonna do the devil's advocate thing for a second. Yeah, give me 1 second. Let me. I have this, Mr. Rashidi. I'm gonna ask the question to the students here, and then we will go to you. So people have the idea, often, many people have the idea that immigrants take, and they take, and they take, but they don't give equivalent to what they take, what they receive, right? So you receive a lot, like say here in the United States, we're giving, but immigrants aren't necessarily giving back. That's an idea that we have. Do you guys have any thoughts about that?
Well, I have a lot of thoughts when I feel like when anyone mentions that. I mean, I see where you're coming from. But
you see where people are coming from.
I see where people are coming from, like, as a general concern. I feel like any country would realize, oh, like, immigrants coming here take advantage of the country. But in the question that you're asking, I find that, like, statistically, or like, I find that hard to be truthful.
How so?
Because, I mean, if that were to be true, and I go back home and I ask the people who are working undocumented in the fields and where the fruit markets or wherever, I can ask, how is your home life? And they most times will say, I have nothing. I don't have much.
And they don't
but
receive.
I work.
And they don't receive.
And they don't receive much. They work like 60-hour, incredible, so many hours a week, barely seeing their own kids. So where in that are they taking and receiving more from the United States is my question. Where in that seems like they're living in this country out of luxury.
Or in some way that maybe it's just not exactly what it seems from the outside. Yeah.
I can see where you're coming from also with like, they receive more than what they give. Like, with free, with free healthcare, I feel like a lot of undocumented immigrants were thriving off that, where, something would happen and they could just go to a hospital and they'll get taken care of. And, in that part, that's not fair for us, for the people who are just citizens. They're paying for that to happen.
Yeah, but it's no different than anybody. If you don't have health insurance, and that, I mean,
exactly. Yeah.
I have stories upon stories upon stories about people just show up and they're taken care of because they have to be. We're not going to let people die.
But then, like, going off his point too, like, I feel like most immigrants, their main goal is to make a living, is to be able to provide for their family, so they could have the opportunities that everybody else can have. Like my mom, my dad, they came here because they want to give me and my brothers the opportunities to go to college, to get those jobs that they probably couldn't get. And sometimes even with that, they still make opportunities with what they can make. Like my father, he is an immigrant. He started as a dishwasher, and now he owns that restaurant that he started as a dishwasher for.
So the idea, which is a common story, right? Because your dad, look, I always say this, like the immigrants immigrants tend to be really hardworking people. Like the people who are not hardworking are back home. Like you're there, you're taking a risk, you're risking everything. So your dad, he's going to start at the bottom and he's going to say, hey, I can go all the way to the top.
Most of them, they strive for that because what they see when they come to America is what has been preached about for years when coming to America, is that if you come to America, you can make opportunities for yourself, you can make opportunities for future generations that you will have. So I guess when most people are coming to the U.S., their plan is, I want to make an opportunity from something that I wouldn't have been able to have back at my country.
And like with Mr. Rashidi, it's not for him. It's his children. Yeah,
because like I don't know if you like whenever I'm saying something, when my mom and my dad, whenever they're talking about their story, they never say, sometimes they'll say like themselves like personally, but then they'll say for you guys, for me and my brothers, they wanted a better chance for us instead of just focusing on them. They're thinking about their futures as well, who we can become if we come here and we make the chance of our opportunities.
So, Emily, I have a question for you. Thanks for that, by the way. So, but people are still going to say, yeah, but you're taking something from what Jose just said, right? Josue? What Josue just said is, yeah, but you're still taking something, right? Like you're moving up, you own the restaurant, but somebody else could own the restaurant. Like what?
Okay, well, I can't talk for every immigrant, but I know from my experience, if I came here to work my ass off. Just like how my mom did it. She came with me when I was 6 and herself. That's it. It was a 2-day long trip. We did it ourselves. And when she got here, she wasn't like, oh my God, I'm American. Like, let's go. I made it. She worked her ass off and she's still working multiple jobs so I could be here and I could have a better education than what she did. I can't talk for every immigrant and why people would think that immigrants take more than what we give, because even from my nuclear family, the people who came over, like it's expensive to immigrate, to get connections, to find people who can help you, to find like routes. It's expensive. Like you can't just get here and be like, okay, I'm gonna live off of like free healthcare and stuff like that. No, you can't, because you have to pay these people back. So it takes time. And who are gonna take the cheap jobs? Who are gonna take the low paying jobs? The immigrants. Why? Because they're just trying to find money and like however way they can. So I don't think it's necessarily true, but again, I can't speak for every immigrant. I don't know every situation, but for my case,
well,
I wish it was seen different.
Yeah, well, it's also complex, right? Because on Tuesday, we talked about, Joe talked about depressing wages, right? So undocumented immigrants, in particular, depress wages. But at the same time, you can get a pound of tomatoes for $2. I'm not buying a pound of tomatoes for $5. It's $2, right? So
they're depressing wages because they want to work. So who are the people that have the jobs to give are gonna be like, okay, you want to work with me, and they'll lower the wage as much as possible because they know that other people might not take it, but the people who want a job who just come here who are trying to make money, they will take it.
So this is the complicated thing, right?
Yes.
Because the owners are gonna
Benefit from it.
they're gonna benefit from it. The consumers are gonna benefit from it because you're not paying union wages for fruit that's being picked out in the field. It's a very complicated back and forth, right? What, Mr. Rashidi, so I often refer to Mr. Rashidi as the kindest human being I've ever met. Like he's so kind. And no, but you're such a loving human being. I've never heard you say a negative word about anything or anybody. But in the Netherlands right now, there are a lot of people in the Netherlands that think that he never should have been allowed in and he should go home. He should go back to Afghanistan. And Mr. Rashidi, what do you say about that? Even though you were there legally, I mean, the government brought you in, right?
Yes, I'm legally here, and I'm famous in my city. I go every day. 3 days I work, and 3 days I go to the library. I'm the ambassador from the library and help people, other immigration, help to learn Dutch. And yeah, it's good for me. I think the people, Dutch people, are kind, thinking for me, and I'm in a good situation.
Yeah,
and I never faced discrimination of so.
You've never faced any discrimination. Yeah. Well, if people just have to meet you, and they can't not like you. But still, people have a certain sentiment. It's very difficult, right? So, go ahead.
One thing, I see people with border. I see people as if a person though is something negative, just I see him as a human, not as a Dutch of as a Muslim of Christian of so. Just as a human can be good or can be not good.
Yeah.
Just
human. Yeah.
Yeah, just human. Yeah. I see them as just as human.
Yeah, you do, for sure. Yeah, for you, everybody is interconnected and just an opportunity to love.
I think seeing it the borders, the religion of the other, just human, and I can help him as I can. Yeah. Most of the time I can't, but as I do, I help.
Yeah, that's your job. It's a perfect job for you.
Yeah.
Hey, so Mr. Rashidi, you're watching what's happening here in the United States with ICE, right? Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to ask a question about that. When you guys see, I have the idea that, I mean, you can imagine, I know a lot of people, lots of immigrants, who have papers, who are legal, who are illegal, who are, I mean, in my life, I have the idea that many people who are cheering for ICE, this kind of thing. I understand that, people are saying, look, you broke the law, you came here illegally, and now you have to go, and you have to go back, and you have to start over again. I understand that. But I have this idea, and that a lot of people just don't meet immigrants. Like they don't meet people. And if they met people, like Mr. Rashidi, like when you sit down and you talk to him, they don't meet people. And I'm just wondering about some of what's going on today, the rhetoric, the anger, rage toward immigrants. That I wonder how much of it is just that we've never met anybody.
I guess like a lot of that is just going off like stereotypes that we see off the news. Like for a lot of people, like, a lot of like the immigration stuff is all stereotypes, or one of the big defenses that people have for immigration is, oh, they're drug dealers. They bring in illegal substances, and people would base it off the news because, as you saw, like there's been plenty of videos like recently where we've caught like Venezuelan boats offshore bringing like million like pounds of.
Wait, hang on though. Are they really boats bringing drugs, or are they fishing? How do we know?
That's the gray line question.
That is the
Yeah,
question.
we don't know.
Didn't know.
Right? But
Well,
anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, still like they're going off stereotypes of how they view it, and I guess some of the stuff that we do, like sometimes that gives into it, like the protests that happened in San Diego early this year, where we shut down the highway, where we lit a ton of stuff on fire. I remember when I was watching that, I saw the Guatemalan flag waving in there, and I was nervous for the immigrants. So I was like, this just gives a really bad reputation to them on what we're not trying to have on us.
Yeah, and those aren't undocumented people in those.
No, those were
protests.
U.S. citizens giving their
Yeah.
opinion. They're the ones that are allowed to speak up through the First Amendment rights. And
Yeah. You don't go to these protests and see people
no,
without
I
papers.
think most undocumented immigrants probably did when they saw Trump. They didn't think, oh, let's go out to the streets and protest. They probably said, oh,
Let's hide.
let's stay home. Let's not go out as much.
I actually really want to piggyback off of him. Those protests that happened in San Diego, I have been a part of them, and I've been in them multiple
Not burning flags, though.
No. In fact, those settings, we want nothing more than to just make our voices heard about our concerns. And even destruction or saying things that are foul language is frowned upon in those protests.
But there's always going to be a few people, and then those people get
Absolutely.
highlighted. And then, just like we know, for example, that undocumented immigrants all over the world, not just in the United States, but everywhere in the world, people without papers have the lowest crime rates of anybody. Right? We just know that because you generally speaking, you just don't commit crimes. Like you hide, you don't do that. We know it's true. Okay? It doesn't matter. Some people still commit crimes. And so then we're like, okay, those get highlighted, and then that becomes the undocumented person, commits a murder or does something. And which is very unfortunate, but it's understandable. So can we go back to this idea about people meeting people? Like right now, okay, the three of you, right? There are people who are meeting the three of you. And they're meeting people for the first time, like immigrants, right? Someone who has access to it, because they just don't have access. They don't talk to anybody. They don't have. So you become a spokesperson. Huh.
Can I just add something?
Yep.
I think about the setting specifically here in Pennsylvania State College. I mean, this is the first time I have really been in this setting or have lived in the East Coast. And if I was just to reverse my shoes, I lived here, how many people would I meet who lived in the border cities between Texas, New Mexico, California? How many of them know their stories?
Yeah.
I mean, for me, living in San Diego, I mean, oh my gosh, most of my friends are immigrants or have family who are immigrants or know someone who is an immigrant. And each one of them have a very hard story to tell.
And if it's not a hard story, it's a normal story because they're living their lives just like everybody else is living their life. Here's a question for you. How much is people who are not down on the border, the reason my wife and I went down to the border, and what we did was we flew into Phoenix, and then we just went south. We went to a couple reservations, then we just got down to the border, and then we traveled across down along the border, and we just were going back and forth into Mexico. Just talking to people, talking to everybody. Oh my God. And I spoke Spanish almost the entire time because everybody spoke Spanish. Everybody spoke Spanish. And the idea was, wow, it sounds like it's really out of control. But it wasn't out of control. Like, it was like, oh, immigration, it's crazy, it's a mess, it's out of control, it's like, it wasn't at all. It was just completely, we talked to border guards, and they're like, yeah, no, it's fine, it's here, people back and forth. Everything was just normal. Can any of you speak to that? Like, we have this idea that, oh, it's been fine, but in the past couple of years, during the Biden administration, we completely lost control of it. Do you have any, like, in your lives or what you see in your communities?
I guess for most people, what they just saw is the number of people entering the country. So they just saw the huge spike in numbers through the Biden era. It went from really from the lowest that Trump brought it to in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Also,
or there were moments when there were big groups of like Guatemalans, right? There's like 10,000 Guatemalans marching toward the border. And then in that particular moment, that becomes representative of everybody and everything. But
in reality, I guess like most of the time, it's not like there's going to be a big group of people entering, or there's like a big group. Like most of the immigrants, I guess, they're probably already, once they're in, it's not like they're going to try to cause issues or anything. They're just going to.
No, they don't cause.
They're just going to go, they're going to try and go find jobs. They're going to go work. They're going to go take care of their families. They're going to go find people they know who can help them get them back on their feet.
Yeah, that's the other side, right? And maybe, Emily, I'd like to hear this from you, actually. Generally speaking, people migrate to places where they know somebody. You don't migrate to, even your mom, when she was 14, but she had somebody's phone number or something, right? I mean, there was someone where she went. She didn't just show up and be like, oh, damn, here I am in State College, Pennsylvania. I got to go find a job. Where's a Wendy's or whatever? I don't know. But people go to other people, family members, community members, who will then take care of them and hold them up because the government's not going to take care of someone. Can you add to that?
Okay, so me and my mom came here without anybody. So like we came here without knowing anybody. My stepdad came after us, but he had already like some family here. But I do have some family who came in during the Biden administration, and they came in like with our help. So a lot of them came in, and now they're working construction.
Mm-hmm. But when you came, your mom, there must have been organizations. There were different places she reached out to, people, groups. Nothing? Like, what'd she do? Just get a job and just go?
I mean, so like I said, she worked at a university, like La Universidad de La Habana, the University of Havana, and in her like career, she was also a teacher because that's what you had to do when you went to school. And in her work there, she traveled a lot to Mexico and Venezuela, right? With her work in Mexico, she had a job there, and that's when we lived 3 months, and she was working there, saving up money. And that's like we had the whole process and everything from money that she had been saving from her job. So the whole immigration process, the whole transportation to where we were now, we had like that extra step because of her job.
Yeah, okay, I got you. So that became like a doorway in.
Yeah, and then when my stepdad came here, he had some relatives here, so then we were all like able to help each other.
Yeah, okay. And that's mostly the case everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Is there a question? So here's a question for you, Mr. Rashidi, from the Netherlands. I'll read the question. It's, how do you feel that the Dutch government has treated you and your family since you've immigrated? Wait, you're muted. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, for me, it's different. We were accepted. We got our documents since we came here. We hadn't any problem. We, yeah, all the things was good for us.
Okay, wait.
But
I'm going to just pause you. It's actually the second question that I think I'd like you to answer. To what extent, to what degree do you want to assimilate? The question is need to, but I'm going to ask, to what degree do you want to assimilate to be part of Dutch culture?
most of the time, what I'm doing here, I'm reading history of Dutch. I'm watching television and TV, and I go to the bibliothèque, I go to the museum, and all the things. Because of that, to feel I am, a sort of to learn Dutch culture. And it's not about me for my children. Also, to feel Netherlands as homeland.
So you are trying to feel, you want to feel Dutch. You're there. You're not going back to Afghanistan.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe in the far future, but you want to feel Dutch.
Yes, most of the time for my children. I hope, they do. I read just a book. It was about a boy.
And
His mother was in Suriname and from Suriname, and his father was Dutch, and he was always asked, where are you from? Because of the color in both countries. He was asked, where are you from? I feel for my kinder it's not so. Both in Afghanistan and here in Netherlands, they have to answer, where are you from? And I'm from. I think it's the most difficult thing for my children, not for me, but for my children. Yes.
Because they are increasingly feeling like they're Dutch.
Yes, the youngest, my son,
Parsa,
cannot speak Farsi. Well,
so he's losing his mother language.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to ask you all, how people have this idea that immigrants don't. A lot of people have the idea that immigrants resist assimilating, and they're afraid, right? They're afraid that there are all these immigrants all over, and the United States is breaking down. It's just this country, but the Netherlands, people have the idea that the Netherlands is breaking down, that because all these immigrants are coming in and they're not maintaining the culture, and the people don't want to assimilate. Can you respond to that?
My community, I live in a part of San Diego that is like pretty developed and live on a golf course. Many Hispanics don't typically live there, and I feel like most of the Hispanics that I meet try very hard to assimilate to being American, to being whiter, to being the stereotypical American. I mean, I see me and my brother, we dress a specific kind of way, we talk a different way than some of our family members do, and then we go to the town in which they live in, and there's a lot of other people who are, the stereotypical, I guess, Mexican. That's their culture, but I feel like a lot of people, like me and my brother, have fell under assimilation.
So do the two of you, you and your brother, do you like going back and forth between the two cultures, or do you mostly say like, no, I just want to I really enjoy being in mainstream American culture?
I wouldn't say that we enjoy it. I think we see the contrast and we're like, whoa.
Yeah.
Because my parents worked very hard to both receive above a master's degree. And so therefore, I live in an area of California where it would take it's very hard to get to.
Yeah.
Especially from how my parents were raised and where they were raised. And we see this difference. It's like, oh, I'm more whitewashed, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I feel more whitewashed than my cousin who lives 20 minutes down south.
But you speak Spanish fluently. When you speak Spanish, do you have an accent? Do people say like, "Whoa, where are you from?"
Yeah, I'm very different. Well, I also speak Portuguese. So those two kind of cross together with me. But yeah, my Spanish is different.
Okay.
I wouldn't say it's whiter, but I would say that I'm not from Mexico.
Mexicans, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you. Emily, how's assimilation for you? Right? I mean, you're in Miami. When I've been to Miami the past couple of Decembers. I speak Spanish. I only speak Spanish there. You know what I mean? It's just like, oh my God, right? But how is this question of assimilation? How much of it?
Okay. As for assimilation, when immigrants come here, they tend to stick with their people because it's a new language. They're bound to get discriminated upon.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're like new to this area, you're gonna try to do everything possible to like be able to stand on yourself, right? So you're gonna stick with your culture, you're gonna stick with your people until you have that foundation, right? There's a lot of seclusion. So if you see like there's a difference between look at Florida, look at North Miami and South Miami. South Miami is full of immigrants. Miami is full of Cubans.
Yeah.
Like everywhere you go is Cubans. So there's a lot of like that culture. Like a lot of people call Hialeah Cuba 2.0, right? So there's a lot of that mixed culture in Miami that makes South Florida. But when you go to North Florida, it's more of just Americans, like you white people. So there's a seclusion because of the difference in economy.
So the idea is that you're gonna hang out, you're gonna maintain your culture for a certain period of time.
For support. And the seclusion as well.
You're going to break out of that. Well, but if you're in Miami, you maybe never have to really
Yes, that's
change
also
that.
the thing. A lot of immigrants come and stick with their group and don't explore the rest of the U.S., I could say.
Yeah.
So once you're in Miami, a lot of people don't leave Miami because they're surrounded by their culture, their language and everything. So it's not like that culture is already set in stone.
Mm-hmm.
But if it was like in some, I don't know, like
if you were in
in a higher state, sorry.
Yeah.
It would be different,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, no, the two of you are both from these areas. I mean, look, man, Miami and San Diego, it's just like it's Spanish, you know?
Yeah.
You can speak it, you can hang out. How about for you? Like, how is because you're not from...
Yeah, so for me, my brothers are a little bit different than me, I guess, because when my dad first got the business, I was just born, so we lived in an area near where I live now. It's an area called Bristol. That area is a lot of Hispanics. It's right near Trenton, which is also a lot of Hispanics in those areas. So growing up, I spoke a lot of Spanish. I spoke English as well. But as my dad, he kept running the business. He kept gaining money. We started moving out, and now we live in an area that is a higher percentage of higher income people who are white also. So now, in that area, you have to assimilate to that, which, I feel like just as people in general, we tend to want to assimilate. We want to, become accustomed to what we're surrounded by. Because
assimilation means that you've made it.
Yeah, it's kind of like, the idea, like that old money versus new money that, we always talk about that, though, that culture of that money's going to be there, but it's hard, when you're coming up, it's hard to fit into that culture because you grew up, from a different culture. My parents grew up eating different types of food that,
Yep. It's also
It's also, I think it was harder for a little bit my family too, because it was like a weird, like my dad, it's an Italian restaurant that he owns, but we're Guatemalan, so it's a little bit, people would look at us and it's kind of like, why is these people running this restaurant,
Yeah. Listen, in here in this town, it's so many of the restaurants, including I think every Indian restaurant. All the cooks, people working in the kitchen are
I've gone downtown before, and every time I end up talking to one of the workers about their life, and I also ask them usually the same question, like, how did you end up coming to State College?
Yeah.
Well, I guess also one thing that is an issue too, I guess, for like us Americans as people, we tend to want people to assimilate to us instead of letting, us trying to assimilate to them. Like we see, in areas like even Puerto Rico, now that through Act 60, once that got signed, Americans started moving out there for lower income tax rates. Yeah. And now they're changing the culture that has been there for however long it's been over there.
So you just used the word us. So for all three of you, like us, it's us. You're Americans, right? When people say that, like it's an us thing. Do you say that? Is that for all of you? It's like us. Like, I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, who are you, right? Like,
I mean, I guess, as, a minority, and we just fall under so many different categories. I could say I'm Guatemalan, I'm Latino, I'm American, I'm a Penn State student, I'm a first-gen student. Yeah. There's so many categories we fall under. So, whenever, sometimes, we talk, I guess, whatever just fits correctly, we'll just say.
Yeah. I just want to add, I feel like a lot of us want nothing more than to be American. To be American, but also still have the values that our parents had as immigrants here. We still want to be a part of the United States and its people, and also work and live for the American dream.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, you know what? This is a nation of immigrants. I mean, this country's built on immigration, so it's not.
Looking back at it historically also, even people back in the time, they used to not come legally. Not many people really came legally too. There were people, there's stories of people, even in different countries too. Back during, World War II, the Jewish community, they ended up hopping on cruise lines to make it to Argentina. That's why we see a high population of Jewish people in areas such as South America.
The laws were changing constantly as a result of so many different, and mostly as a result of how important it was to have labor. When we needed labor, we relaxed the laws, and when we didn't need labor, we didn't. We kept the laws very strict.
Yeah, kind of, off that too, where we saw the effect that had on people too. Like in Florida, when we saw that they tried to put a law on construction, and, if you have undocumented workers, then you would have to pay a certain amount. Yeah. We saw that construction slowed down a lot because there wasn't people who wanted to work.
Yeah. Hey, I'm going to respond. Wait, hang on. I'm going to respond to that. Okay. I want to say something. Yeah, she doesn't need the mic. I want to respond. So I do want to, we're going to cut in a second. So first off, I want Mr. Rashidi, are you, thanks for being here. It's good to have you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you all.
Yeah, no, I think it's really important to have a representative from a country other than the United States to talk about. And the issues, and they're very similar wherever we go.
You taught me to break the borders. It can happen without loving each other.
Yeah.
To love not out of this room, just who sit beside you. Love, it spread in all world, and we love each other, and we bring humanity together.
Yeah.
Sorry, my English is mixed with Dutch. with touch.
No, it's good
I
though.
cannot. Yeah.
That's Mr. Rashidi. You speak 3 languages fluently, and in addition to 3 others, so you're okay. Don't worry about it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, I want to say something. You said something about the Jewish people emigrating to Argentina, and it reminded me of 2 things that I want to say. I want to say something about that, but I want to say that, 2 days ago, October 7th, was the anniversary of the attacks on Israel by Hamas. And then 2 days later, we find out that we're really moving forward with the ceasefire and the peace process, and hopefully it holds. And it's pretty, there are 2 things. One, it's interesting that October 7th isn't like a day that, it's just how quickly it's glossed over, okay? Given how much attention we pay to the war that's happening in Gaza. That's the first thing I want to say. The second thing I want to say is, we're going to talk about it. And after World War II, so many Jewish people, during World War II, so many Jewish people fled Europe to go to the Americas and go to South America, North America, etc. And were not allowed in, and they weren't allowed in, and boats were turned away, and because of anti-Semitism. And so many people came and arrived, but the number of people that were sent back to the war and back even to die, to be killed by the Nazis, is profound, actually. And that's the longest hatred, which is anti-Semitism. But we're going to talk about that. We're going to do a class later. It's just interesting that you raise that. Okay. Hey, can we have a round of applause for